Hey, it's Eric Hart with Fighting for Daily Encouragement. Today is May 18th, 2013. This is episode number 21, and it's been about a week since episode number 20 of mine anyway. And I know this is supposed to be Fighting for Daily Encouragement, and we originally talked about doing these things every day, but life gets hectic, and we haven't been able to do that. So, on days that you check our page or whatever and look for a new video, if there's not one up, then I just encourage you maybe watch one of the older ones or watch one you've seen before. Or if not, then obviously we're hoping you're seeking encouragement in other places, like the Bible or maybe a good devotional, or going to church, of course, or maybe small group meetings with church members, or just hanging out with fellow believers and stuff like that. Or I'll tell you a cool website where you can just catch testimony after testimony on any topic, any struggle that you're going through. They're listed by categories. It's a website called iamsecond.com, and that's iamsecond.com. And that is there are just so many extremely powerful testimonies on there. But anyway, my life has not been too bad at all, of course there's struggles and stuff like that, but that's not the reason why I haven't been making these things. So don't think that I have not personally been encouraged, because I have. Woo, man, I wish I could tell you guys the amazing ways that I see God working constantly. Nothing is more encouraging to me ever than seeing God work, and knowing it in the ways that He reveals it to me. Obviously, we know that God's working through everything constantly, and that He's always with us, and we know those things, but when He's so gracious to show us so many ways, it's just mind-blowing, and He just shows me every day, just amazing ways that He's working. And the reason is because I keep Christ at the center of all my thoughts, or try to pray about it. I pray every day, that God will keep Himself right at the forefront of every single thought that I have. So through that, I have a million stories that would take me 45 minutes each at least, to scratch the surface of. And if I did tell them to you, you probably wouldn't believe it anyway. Or maybe you would, but either way, you wouldn't really catch the essence of it the way that I do, because you're not me and you're not in my circumstances, So I want to encourage you to keep Christ at the forefront of all of your thoughts, and make Christ number one in your life, and let your life be centered around Him, and that you would give Him the wheel, and that you would trust Him with your life in every aspect of it. I want to tell you that He is in every single meeting that you have, every single encounter, every single circumstance, everything, every point, every minute of your life right now, 20 minutes ago, every breath, every single word. Oh, I could tell you a really cool story how I know that He's in every single word. But man, like I said, it took me a long time. I'm already at 3.5 minutes, and this iPad that I'm recording with will only let me upload like 11 minutes to YouTube or something like that. So I just want to encourage you to keep your own antennas up and see God working in your life. Man, it's powerful. Like I said, there's nothing in the world more encouraging or exciting to me. I never thought I would be excited after what I've gone through, man. I never thought I would live. But on top of that, not only gets God sustain me, but He just inspires me, man. Gets me excited, that He would use just a humble idiot like me, in ways that I could have never imagined. And it has nothing to do with me. I mean, just the fact that I am able to see God at work is, whoa, that's awesome. Man, when we get to heaven one day and we see how He worked through everything, it's just going to be earth-shattering. I mean, it's going to be amazing. So anyway, just keep Jesus at the forefront of all of your thoughts. I got a friend named Valerie who's just a really good woman of God. She's really, really cool. But she was telling us one night about how she just tries to think Jesus in everything. Whatever she's going through, she's thinking Jesus. And she said it was so much on her heart to always keep Him at the forefront of every thought that she even prayed one day. It just occurred to her. She said, God, don't even let me sleep without thinking about you. Just make my dreams revolve around Jesus, and that was inspiring, man. I haven't even stopped to pray that for myself, but man, I really need to. So just make Christ number one. I mean, why wouldn't you? You know, when I used to pray, my wife and I would pray together and stuff, and before I was really really strong believer, or really what's the word? I don't know how to describe it. But when I believed in God, when I believed in Jesus and everything like that, but I wasn't really truly living for Him 100%. You know, I'm still not 100%, but when I wasn't trying to live for Him 100%, I used to pray that, and I didn't really know what it meant, and I told you guys that before, but, you know, He did it for us, you know, and so I want to tell you to pray about that, you know, make Christ number one. I mean, if you're not, then why don't you ask yourself why? Why are you not considering Him in all things? Because if Christianity is true, if the God of the universe, the ultimate supreme being, the intelligent creator that made everything, including you and me, then, and He has a plan for your life, you know, He created you for His purposes. And He says that all things work together for good for those who believe and those who are called according to His purpose, which is Romans 8:18 or 8:28. And I told you about that before. I think it's 8:18. But I want you to really think about that. I say that all the time, but meditate on that, you know, and be encouraged by that. All things work together for good, ultimately. So why would we not consider Christ in everything? There are people persecuted every single day all throughout the world. There are still Christians being crucified for the sake of the gospel everywhere because they will not renounce Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior. Now, I've been in a lot of conversations. I've heard it talked about a lot of times, you know, would you die for the sake of the gospel? If you were at gunpoint or if you were facing the cross, the same excruciating, horrifying, terrible, worst death you can possibly imagine. I don't know if you've ever read the details about what actually occurs during crucifixion or what happened to Jesus during that time. Just the physical part, not even taking on the wrath of sin and the guilt of sin and the wrath of God for sin or whatever on the cross, the spiritual realities of it. If you've seen the Passion of the Christ, then that gives you a pretty good idea of what He went through physically, you know, there. Well, there are people like you and me facing that same torment, that same death, and lots of other deaths, you know, along with the mass majority of the Jesus' disciples that died for the sake of the gospel. You know, if you're wondering, would you do that? Would you go to the cross? Would you be tossed in a burning fire for the sake of the gospel, for not renouncing Christ, for not renouncing God? Or would you save your own life for, you know, because you're scared to die or you're scared of that torture or whatever? I mean, that's a difficult question, you know, but if you're wondering what the answer to that is, then why don't you just ask yourself, are you living for the sake of the gospel? You know, that would give you a pretty good reading on that meter of whether or not you would die for it. You know, are you living for it? If all this is true, if at the end of that torment you're facing Christ, who's waiting with open arms for you in eternity of joy and glory in the presence of the living God, in the presence of Jesus Christ, our Savior, our King, then, man, put me on the cross. You know, chop my head off, throw me in the fire, whatever. You're just not getting me to renounce God. I mean, man, especially after I had faith before. You know, I believed that Christ was my Savior. But, man, lately, now, after everything I've been through and after I just prayed out of desperation, God, just give me all I need to serve you. You know, if you hope for me to have comfort during the worst things that I could ever possibly imagine happening to me, then just reveal yourself to me. Show me the ways that you're working, you know, and man, God, how graceful God is and loving, you know. I mean, this creator that we're talking about also happens to love us, also happens to, you know, offer us eternal joy. You know, why not? And we're all going to die. Everybody's going to die unless Jesus comes first, you know. And why would you not live like you're going to die? and like you're going to have to answer to Christ for all that you've done. When he says, did you know my son Jesus? When God asks you, did you know my son Jesus? Or Jesus asks, did you know me? And then, if you say yes, then what if he says, well, what did you do with my son Jesus in your life? What did you do with my son Jesus in the lives of others? Then I hope you can have a great answer for that. I mean, of course, we're going to fall terribly short of what, we should have done. But still, we got to try. We got to keep Christ at the forefront of all of our thoughts. We've got to take every thought captive and conform it to the obedience of Christ. We've got to show up in places where God is known to show up. If you want to have your antennas up, if you want to be looking out for what God's doing, show up in places where he's known to show up. Go to church, serve others, in ministries. There are all kinds of ministries. Find your place in that. Pray for God to put you where he wants you to be, and to do everything that he wants with you. Submit your life to him. I mean, why would you not? You're either serving, you can't serve two masters. You're either serving some sort of sin or you're serving God. And if as long as you're seeking Christ daily, then you'll be right in the center of God's will, and his will is perfect for you. So it all works out beautifully. And I just want to encourage you also to have anguish for others. People that don't know this saving grace that's offered to us for free, then offer it to others, and don't be afraid of rejection. If they're rejecting you or what you're telling them, don't worry about it. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting God, and we got to pray about it. Only God can make those changes, and we hope that he will. It's eternal joy, I mean, it's revelation of God to us, I mean, what's better than that? I'm out of time, man. I got to go. I'm going to expand on some of that other stuff later. But I love y'all. Stay encouraged, and thank you so much for all your prayers, support, everything, man. I love y'all. Peace.